Good day and welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be doing a review of this Magic Speed X52HD 12 level professional machine, kindly provided to us by Gearbest. Firstly, we're going to be doing a quick unboxing of this machine, and later on I will do a complete flight test as well. But let's just look through the packaging. It says it's a barometer control, which means it does have altitude control, trajectory flight, I'm assuming that's just for normal flying. It does advertise a 1080p camera here, 1 key return, real-time transmission to your mobile phone, and 1 key takeoff and landing. At the top of the box there's nothing. At the bottom of the box we have a couple of safety statements, etc. On the side you just have the transmitter and that you can control it with your phone. On the back there's just another copy of the white drone and the different colors. It has been marked here that it is the 1080p version and that this one should be white if that marking is correct, but it's very faint. Let's go ahead and just open it up quick, see what's inside. Manual, which seems pretty extensive. A number of pages to the manual. Transmitter, decent sized transmitter. Feels a little plasticky, but that's normal for these toy grade quadcopters. Little charging unit for USB, screwdriver, and additional props. This is going to be your mobile phone holder and a vibration dampener. The camera unit with its little antenna for its Wi-Fi transmission attached there. So obviously you have the ability to attach this or not. It does have a capability to tilt using that. Seems to be a normal pinhole type camera, so nothing fancy. That's actually a fairly standard type battery. Single cell, 3.7 volt. I really did squeeze it in there. There you go. The landing gear, and some pop guards with screws. On the top it actually says flying toys, and there you go. See that little more close up. On the bottom we have a on-off switch. I'm going to assume that that is where the camera is going to be plugging in. Landing gear will attach here. It's very, very light. It does feel a little plasticky, but it's very, very rigid. Props are stiff, but a little bendable. So hopefully they do not break easily should you have a disaster and a bit of a crash. The door for the battery clips in fairly tight, and that is where you would attach the first you would attach the vibration dampener and then the camera to that. But let me get this assembled quick. We can see what it looks like. Exactly 4 screws. The landing gear would pop in. Sticks on pretty well. It's almost not necessary for the screws. Find our little screwdriver, which is in the top package. And our last screw is going in. That's it. Assembled. Now, it does resemble a miniaturized version of a Phantom, DJI Phantom. So it's quite cute, like that. But let's give the size measurements so you guys know exactly what size this little drone is. Some measurements. Now let's just take it from motor edge to motor edge. It's about 26 centimeters. If we include prop distance, prop to prop, it is a total of 37.5 centimeters. And from top to bottom, it is 11.5 centimeters in height, total height. So that is the space you would need if you are going to package it and travel with it. Unfortunately, the original packaging, once you have the landing gear attached, is not usable anymore. But for those who are wondering what the size difference is, I'm going to put this little quadcopter or drone here on the side. Now we do know what these measurements are, and I'm going to bring in my actual Phantom 4. This is a standard Phantom 4, not the Phantom 4 Professional or anything. It's just, but the Phantom 4 and the Phantom 4 Professional, same size. And it absolutely dwarfs it in size. So I would say that this one is about 2/3 the size of what a Phantom 4 would be. So there you go, just for those who are wondering what the size difference is between this little drone and an actual Phantom 4. Look at the transmitter. Transmitter size is fairly decent size, 15 centimeters by 17 centimeters in total height, or 13 centimeters body only. I would assume this is a fake antenna, but it's nice there for the look. You have a battery bay door. It takes 4 AA batteries, or it's pen light size batteries, and it has additional buttons on this side. We will discover what they are for later, and that is your power button. These buttons obviously are going to be for your trimming. It has a stop button. I'm going to assume that is a prop stop button. That is going to be headless mode, and this is your 1 key return and your auto takeoff and auto land buttons. I'm not going to be attaching the prop guards. Those are for people, if you're still learning to fly, prop guards are a good idea. In my case, I've found prop guards often reduce your flight times, etc., because there's additional airflow that needs to go around them. And if you're confident enough to fly without them, then by all means fly without them. The next thing I'm going to be doing is attaching this vibration dampener plate. There's only one direction in which it can be inserted, and it clips in fairly tight. Now the camera does not seem to have any kind of a SD card capability. Now do bear in mind, even though it does resemble a gimbal, it is not a gimbal. It doesn't have any kind of stabilization. The vibration plate that we have inserted here is going to absorb some of the vibration, should there be any, from the drone itself. And there we have it. It can only plug in one way, and there you have it. The battery, connect the battery and insert. Close that up. Let's power it on for the first time. And there you go. Nice little lights, and it is ready to connect to our transmitter. So let's pop in some batteries there. Now for attaching your clip, that just slides over the antenna, and your mobile phone would just clip into that. And there you go. We switch on our drone and wait for the lights to start blinking like that. Switch on the transmitter. Now to bind it, it's once up, once down, and the lights will stop blinking. I'm a little surprised that this camera does not have any kind of SD card, which means that you will not be able to record any of your footage directly onto an SD card. You are going to have to use the application, and quite possibly due to transmission errors, etc., you may have footage which is not as good as it could have been had there been an SD card on the drone itself. Now in order to charge this battery, you connect it to this little charging module, which is a USB setup, and it can only go in one way. The other way it will not fit, so you pretty much can't go wrong.
and it does have a little LED. Now I've got a little battery bank here onto which I'm going to connect it just to show you. Connect it there, and once it's powered on, it will have a red LED shining while it is charging. Now once it's fully charged, that LED will turn off. If you are the type of person who likes to travel, a battery bank like this is a good idea if you do not have many of these batteries. If you only have one battery, you're going to want to charge it often, and if you don't have a cell phone charger nearby, or you're not connected to a normal power outlet where you can connect a charger, etc., a battery bank such as this is nice to charge your battery with. Now another little thing I want to note interestingly is that these props, the additional props that were supplied, have no writing on them, unlike the props that are on your quadcopter or drone, and they are also a different color. They're a shade of, let's call it cream, where the originals that are supplied with the drone are quite white. I hope you can actually see that there. Now, if you want to replace a prop, let's say that you have damaged a prop, they have a little interesting little setup here. You use your screwdriver. You normally maybe use something a little more flat, but if you get it right into the edge there and you pop it off, this little top pops right off. I'm going to bring that a little closer so you can see this. So that's the little top, and it pops right off. Now inside there's a little screw. Don't know if you saw that on the previous image, but there's a little screw inside, and that is the screw that you would loosen, and inside your replacement props there is a shaft which has sides, hexagonal sides, so that it can grip, and you pop that on and you would just put your screw back in, and you would take your little cap and you would pop that back in there. Now this does mean that there is a chance that you could lose these tops. However, because they are in the center, I seriously doubt that they are going to really affect balance, etc. Are the props balanced? I don't know. And on a toy grade quadcopter such as this, unless the balance is out a really lot, you're not going to really see a difference. Is it going to affect jello on the video? Maybe. If you see there's a lot of jello, then you might want to balance these props, and because they have a shaft right through, you should be able to use a standard prop balancer with them. Now, in order to set up the software, you will need a iOS phone, mobile phone, or Android phone. Now I would suggest something which is a little more high-end, because low-end phones tend to have lagging and a little other issues. So if you are experiencing those issues, then it might actually be your phone and not the application or the quadcopter drone setup. You will also need a QR scanner, unless you are going to just search for the Fly FPV application. It's just called Fly FPV. In my case, I'm going to use a QR scanner, and I'm going to use the international Android app, and I'm going to scan that, and it scans. It'll ask you where you wish to install it. Because I have multiple devices are listed here. I'm going to select my Huawei P10. It's listed as Huawei VTR L09, and I'm going to click install. Now it'll give you the information that it will be installed soon. It will say on your download manager that it is busy installing. Now once installed, you get this icon that says Fly FPV. That is the application we will be using to do our camera monitoring, camera recording, etc. Because this drone does not have its own SD card for recording locally directly onto it. Now before we open that, we switch on our quadcopter drone, and Wait for the lights to start blinking like that, and switch on our remote control. I do suggest we also do a binding so that it knows that you're connecting to the remote control and not flying directly using your application. The application comes up with a nice little intro graphic. On this little infographic that opens, on your settings, you can choose to automatically save parameters, etc. You can change it to right hand mode and change the preview to 720, the buttons beep, etc. I'm not interested in that at the moment. I just want to go into this little power button, which is right in the middle. It'll ask permissions. Obviously, in this case, we need to allow all three of these permissions to allow it to connect. Now, you may need to open your Wi-Fi settings, and then if you are already on a Wi-Fi connection, go and find it. Now, in this case, it will be this one that says Fly FPV 1080. I've got a couple of other Wi-Fi connections all around me, but I need to connect to that one. So, whoop, connect to Fly FPV. It'll say obtaining IP address. Once it says connected, you can exit back to your application, and there we go. There we can see our camera view, and let me just move it a little bit here. There we go. There you can see my little logo against the wall. The responsiveness, let me put my hand in front of it and then we can see what the responsiveness is. I'm going to pull it back a little bit so you guys can see here. Right, that's hand down and up and down. That is pretty quick. For a toy drone, I am surprised. That is very, very quick. And Wi-Fi as well. Wi-Fi generally tends to be pretty slow. So that is quick. I like that. So you might actually be able to fly true FPV using this. You've got a couple of other buttons. And the third one from the left is going to be your recording button. And that will record your video. The rest of the buttons, explore and enjoy them, but I would suggest do this outside. I'm not going to experiment with these buttons because I know one of them actually does allow you to take off, and I'm not quite sure which one, and I don't want to take off while I'm filming this video. It will end up on Fail Army, and we don't want that inside the office. We're just about ready to do the flight test for the Magic Speed X52 Quadcopter drone, and we have a bit of a breezy day today. There's a bit of a wind coming from that side, which is our north, and I'm assuming wherever you are in the world, you may have days in which you have a bit of a breeze. Now I've got an anemometer. Let me grab it there quick and see what the wind speed's like. The anemometer measures the wind speed. I'm just going to set it so that I can get the correct readings, and our normal wind speed, that's our running wind, averages at about 9.4, yeah, it's about 9.4 kilometers per hour. But I've measured breezes. Oh, there we get a bit of a gust coming through at 15 kilometers per hour, 15.1. That's pretty high, and for such a small quadcopter it may be too much, but let's see. And there we go. And to start up, I'm just going to show it here on the camera. Let's see if you can see it here. Now that's the third button from the left. That starts your video. Right, now I'm in rate 1. Now for this kind of wind, I'm assuming rate 1 is not going to work because the wind is a little strong, so I might need to put it into rate 2 or even rate 3 to get it flying properly. But let's go ahead and see what it's like. Right, it's actually not bad in rate 1 because the breeze is not that bad at all. Let's just take it out a bit. You're always kind of slow. Oh, the wind is carrying it a bit. Now what I'm going to do, because we do have this bit of wind, I'm going to up the rate to rate 2. Now I don't know if you guys can actually see it, but you do actually have a view of the LEDs. Now today is semi-overcast, so I'm assuming that on a normal full day that it will be a little harder to see those LEDs. Depending on what version you have, some versions for your top right button, as in this case, I push it once. Okay, hold on, let me just get into position. Right, I push it and push it forward and it will flip forward. Okay, and to do a side flip, we would push it again and push it to the side and it will do a flip. Now, for a camera drone that is pretty much useless, but there we go. Okay, now I'm just going to turn it a bit. Let's see how it performs. And, the yaw is pretty okay in mode 2, in rate 2. I apologize, not mode 2, rate 2. Let's see, I'm going to put it into rate 3 just to test the speed. It beeps quickly 3 times. It's a pretty quick drone. Let's bring it back straight towards us and see. Oh, it's pretty quick, but it does drop some height. So it's not the kind of drone that you would like to race in rate 3, because its barometer does seem to lose some height. But I must say it's still pretty controllable in rate 3. Obviously, because it doesn't have a gimbal, your video is not going to be very stable or stabilized. But let's take it up a little bit. Now there in the distance, what you can see is our industrial area. Now the video that I can see on the mobile screen is a little, does seem to have quite a bit of jello, but it's expected with these kind of toy drones. It's not a professional drone. It is a toy grade quadcopter. Okay, now I've taken it out quite a bit. Coming down takes a bit of a while. It's a little slow coming down. That's in rate 3. Let me put it back into rate 1. Rate 1 is obviously a lot more controllable. However, when you have winds and gusts, it might have a hard time controlling those. Now, because I set it up with this side pointing forward, when I took off, that should be your front facing for your headless mode. So I'm just going to put it into rate 2 because I'm having a bit of a hard time. As you can see, I'm tilting all the way to the right and it's having a hard time with the wind. So I'm going to put it into rate 2, which makes it a little more controllable. And then I'm going to put it into headless mode by pushing our headless mode button. So that becomes forward. Oh, okay, it doesn't quite seem to want to accept that. Now, to correct that, if you do experience that problem, and I've experienced this with so many of these toy type drones, that you need to do a calibration before you do a takeoff. Landing this in this wind is going to be a bit of a problem, so I'm going to do a stop over this very soft grass and have it just drop out of the sky. So let's just bring it a little closer and we push our stop button, which is up here, and that cuts the props automatically and it'll just drop out of the sky. That is quite normal. Let's just bring it back, put it back into our carpet. Now to do a calibration, campus calibration, so this points to our north, or our front, not our north, I apologize. It's both down and to the sides. When the prop starts spinning lightly like that, it has accepted those settings. So let's take off again. And there we go. So let's put it back into headless mode, beeping. So, and oddly, it still doesn't seem to accept. I'm going to put it into mode 2. So it seems headless mode might have a bit of a problem. I don't know why, but Someone else might have a solution. Maybe I'm not doing something right, but there we go. Headless mode is not that reliable for me. Okay, let me just play around with it a bit so you guys can see what this drone can do. Oh, it's actually a nice little fly. It's very stable. I'm going to put it into rate 3. There we go. As you can see, that's me just fully manual control. So it's actually really not that bad. But okay, let's stop and do a photo. So I'm going to stop recording for a moment and see if I can get it into a position where I can take a photo. Alright, I'm assuming we did take a photo there. I sincerely hope so. Let's see if I can get another one. Because the wind is messing me around, it is actually fairly tricky. Let's see if I can get a little closer to me. Right. Now, it's actually not that noisy for a brushed quadcopter. It really isn't noisy. Most brushed quadcopters tend to be very noisy, and you can hear this one's sound. It's got a whine, but it's not bad for a brushed quadcopter. Let me just take another photo. I'm going to take it up a little higher to so we can see our nice little industrial area. Right. I don't want to take it too high, but let me see if I can get it to drift nicely with the wind so we can get a nice photo. There we go. I'm going to see if I can get 2 photos in there, maybe a third one even. And there we go. So there we go. Bringing it back. So it's nice and controllable. It's really not bad for a toy grade quadcopter, but it is what it is. It's a $50 quadcopter, toy grade, and though the video says it's 1080p, I don't quite trust these always on these toy quadcopters. They sometimes upscale them, and unfortunately this one has no recording capability directly to the SD card. What I must say is it's quite a bit of fun. Not as fast as some toy quadcopters I've flown. Oh, and the battery's died. So if we put together the times that I flew, the part in the beginning and the part at the end, calculate them together, we have an average flying time. I pretty much enjoy that. It is a very nice controllable quadcopter. But hold on a second, let me go fetch it. It seems the LEDs do start blinking quick when the battery gets low. However, in sunlight, that is almost useless to anyone watching out for this, because these LEDs, it's just too faint. And I wish these manufacturers of these drones will put in a function that it actually sends the voltage to the application and warns you via beeps or something that the batteries are running low. So that is my first gripe. It's not just this specific quadcopter or drone, it's with all of these toy grade quadcopters. Put a beep function. If it's not inside the drone or the quadcopter, put it in the application, measure the voltage and let us know when the voltage is dropping. The LEDs alone are not enough, because we end up in sunlight situations where you just can't see those LEDs. And even in a situation like this where it's overcast, you can't see those LEDs at a distance of 10 meters. It's almost invisible. To summarize, this is a very nice toy grade quadcopter. It flies well, it's stable, and though it's got a flight time of only about 8 minutes as I timed it, I think that is acceptable for a toy grade quadcopter of its class. So there's very little to fault when it comes to flying, other than watch the barometer. That's what controls your altitude. It does tend to be a little inaccurate at times and may suddenly drop. So watch your height. It may drop at times if air pressure is affected. The only other negative I can really say is that the camera doesn't have SD card recording directly to the quadcopter or to the camera, and all your recordings need to be made to your mobile phone. The 1080p quality is mediocre at best. It's acceptable considering it is a toy grade quadcopter. There is a bit of jello. All of these toy grade quadcopters have a bit of jello, and it's one of those things they're not going to get away from very easily. Now you may want to balance the props if you so wish in order to reduce that jello effect, because I'm pretty sure these props are maybe a little unbalanced. It's a great flyer. I really enjoyed it. It's pretty quick and even does flips. Well, this model does flips. In the end, I'm pretty happy with it. It's really not bad. Decent size transmitter, decent range. Normally it's advertised at around 100 meters, but at 100 meters you are not going to be able to see this. And flying FPV directly and only FPV with this is not recommended, as if you're a inexperienced flyer pilot, chances are you're going to lose your drone. That is the Magic Speed X52HD 1080p quadcopter, and it's pretty cool. Enjoy it. Now if you enjoyed this review, then I really would appreciate you subscribing to see future videos and hit that thumbs up. See you in the next video.